That's right. We are back. What's going on, everybody? This is the Links and Locks podcast presented by Bet365. I'm Jason Sobel from the Action Network. He is Ben Everill from Golf Bet. Whew. It's been a long December. There's reason to believe that this year will be better than the last, at least as far as our picks are concerned. We will get to our picks for the Sentry in just a minute. Benny, before you say anything, stop right there. Both of us are playing a little hurt this week. So if you hear some coughing, you hear some sneezing on this podcast, we apologize. I don't know what to tell you. It's winter. That said, before we get any further, got to give you guys a reminder. The Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 does not do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Colorado, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions all apply. All right, got through that stuff, and now I can say hello, Happy New Year, Benny. How are you?
Hey, mate, how you going? How's everyone going out there? Hope you had an awesome holidays, good New Year, etc. Contrary to what I've heard around the place, yes, I have been in Vegas. No, my voice is not like this because of Vegas. Sadly, I have not been able to even sniff a table, despite being here for quite a few days, and was in bed before the fireworks extravaganza, despite being on the strip during New Year's Eve and still not making it through. But you know what? Maybe everything's about to change, mate. Maybe we're going to get some absolute brilliant stellar picks out there and start this year with a high, with a bang, and hopefully pick some winners for the folks along the way.
Yeah, maybe and hopefully, I think, are the operative terms there. Now, we look, ready to start off with a bang. 59 players. It's very interesting because this is the first of 8 signature events on the PGA Tour this season. The other 7 are essentially going to be limited fields from what we're used to at those events. This one is actually a bigger field. No longer is this the Tournament of Champions with about, 35, 40 players. It's now a signature event just called the Sentry. 59 players in the field this week. It's actually bigger. Kind of makes it a little more fun this week. Still no cut. Benny, my question for you is, do you believe that having these shorter fields and signature events will change kind of how you look at the fields moving forward? And I'll give the example. Scottie Scheffler is right around 5-1 at Bet365 right now. If this had been a 156-man field, which, granted, it never is a Kapalua, I get all that. But if it was a full field, I don't know, he'd probably be 8.5, 9-1 instead. Do you have more of an interest in recommending a guy like Scheffler in a shorter field at 5-1 or in a bigger field at, let's go, 8.5-1?
That's amazing, Jason. I guess you've probably been reading Benny and the Bets, my column, or whatever it is that you find at golfbet.com every week. But I started this year talking about when to bet the favourites, to bet or not to bet the favourite, essentially this season. Late last year, we did the math and we worked out that had you bet the favourite every event, it was 54 events last season on the tour, you would have collected a tidy sum. I think it was if you bet, $100 every week on just the betting favourite, you would have made a profit of over $3,000 despite laying out $5,400. So is that a theory going forward? And look, I've come to the conclusion that maybe not, because of exactly what you're talking about. We're going to see favourites at shorter odds more often. We're going to see not necessarily the return. And in fact, it was only 8 winners that turned that profit. And the shortest priced favourite of those 8 winners was plus 600. So already you're getting unders on Scheffler this week on what the trend was last year. Look, again, you know me. I love me some chalk. Don't get me wrong, as you know. But there comes a point where it's just too short for me. And in fact, we're starting off in that exact scenario where the top 2 on the board, you mentioned Scheffler at about 5-1, and you can get Victor Hovland, the FedEx Cup champion, around 8-9-1 at most places as well. Yep. I don't think that either of them are the smartest pick, if you will, from the get-go because of those odds. I'm an advocate, as you know, of looking to use them potentially. If you do think they're going to play well, look at the smaller investment of the first round leader and holding back and waiting until the first round. And in fact, my advice all year will be probably on the favourite, if it's anywhere in this short realm, is just wait. Because people I know, you're not always used to betting after the first round or after the second round. But look, you're going to get the plus 500, the plus 600 or the plus whatever after one or two rounds, unless they go lights out and streak the field. And if they do that, well, good luck to them, right? Like that's why I said you can maybe put some money on the first round leader if you want to pick that up. If they don't, you're still going to get value. They might be 2 or 3 behind, but they're talented players. You're going to get value in the chase.
Look, I probably shouldn't say this as somebody who spends 3 days every week going into the opening round talking about predictive elements and analytics and trying to figure out who's going to play well and who the people out there should bet on. That said, look, if you've got a way of doing it, if you're going to be on top of things on a Thursday and Friday, and you're not, well, I'm away at work, I'm at school, I'm doing things, and I can't sit there and look at a PGA Tour leaderboard and look at my bets the entire time. But if you're someone who's got the time to be doing that, there are so many times when, let's say Scottie Scheffler this week as an example, starts out 5-1, somebody races out to a hot start, they're 5 under through 7. Scottie Scheffler throws a bogey in there, he's 1 over through 3. He is 6 off the lead, and all of a sudden, he's not going to be 50-1, but he might be 6.5, 7, 7.5 1, like 45 minutes after he started playing. And so, yeah, it can go the other way, sure, where Scottie Scheffler birdies the first 3 and you never see that 5-1 number again. But at those short numbers, I'm willing to take a chance that somebody else goes low besides the guy that you like at the top, and just wait. Just wait. I get it. I know we spend hours every week doing podcasts and radio shows and writing up all of our content, doing video hits and telling you, here's who you should bet this week. Sometimes it might be better to wait until they actually tee off as opposed to putting it in on Wednesday night before they start on Thursday.
Yeah, the reality is it's very, very rare that any player on the board doesn't at some point hit a slightly higher price than they started, right? Unless the majority of the field is going to yo-yo around like that. It's the beauty of golf betting. You do get that value out there. You do get that great movement, and you can pick up a legitimate long shot or longer shot that can actually win and win well. It's very rare that you see a football team go down by 28 points and win, but you can easily get a guy who's 5-6 back after one round in a golf tournament, win by 2 or 3 shots. So these are the things you can keep in mind. Obviously, always, gambling responsibly, not putting the house on guys who are 8 behind every week. But if you just play the field cleverly and smartly, I think you can. To me, that's the way to play the favourites anyway, put it like that. I know, as I said, just straight 100 every week on them last year would have done well. That might be a little different this year, given, as we said, more signature events, more limited fields, certain big names at the top missing, some weeks, others not. And I think a mate of mine would say the rule of thumb for him was with the Scheffler, whatnot, if they were double digits at the start, he might throw something on. If they were under, he would wait. And that might be an easy way to look at it. So if you can get a guy at 10-1, that's a good favourite or better. Maybe you want to throw someone. If it's less, maybe wait and see.
All of that said, I am essentially betting numbers more than I'm betting names this week. I'll tell you what I mean by that in just a minute. But as we do every single week during the PGA Tour schedule, let's get to our 18 picks. We're playing 18 holes. We're making 18 bets for this week's The Sentry, opening up the PGA Tour season. And by the way, I love being able to say that, Benny. It's not, it's week 9 of the PGA Tour season. We started back in September. This is the start of the year. It's the start of the season. It just feels right again. And now you are on the first tee at Kapalua, where you've been before. I don't know that you found the fairway there, the widest fairways in the world. Even you can miss those. But why don't you start us off with the play?
Yeah, I can confirm I've missed that fairway a few times post the Sentry getting around in there. That's one thing I'll miss this year. Have been to many of the Sentries over the years. And a lot of my picks, you talk about the numbers, I'm the same. I'm sort of trying to go away from those favourites, find a little bit of value. Still relatively chalky, but with guys that I've seen play well there in person and things that I've noticed with guys I have an insight into. That being said, I'm going to go with my first outright option. One of the things that has always been a staple of the winners in recent times has been having a great week putting. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to get the ball and hold those fairways, as you mentioned, are super wide. The stats do show, oh, look, you've got to be up there and stress gained off the tee. But honestly, you and I or any handicapper pretty much could hit most of the fairways. They are very generous. So the real stat that you need to be worried about is getting that ball in the hole and making some putts, a few more than others, and not messing up your chipping and around the green. So I'm going to go for a guy who was sixth, I think it was, stress gain putting last year, and who's just come off a recent win, that being in South Africa in Max Homa. He was third a year ago at the Sentry. Hadn't done done great there before that, but last year was different. He has a 63 in the bag on that course. I think that Max Homa is still building into bigger things. We know he's done well away from the majors. Now he has to do well at the bigger events, at the majors, and I'd like to see him do well and do more at these signature events to start with. So based on his putting and how he played in South Africa, Max Homa is an option for me at about 14 to 1. You can get him.
I think he makes a whole lot of sense, Benny, this week. I don't love the number. And again, I'll explain what I meant by playing numbers instead of names. I think there's a lot of value in sort of the second tier this week. Once we get past not just Scheffler and Hovland, but I want to get past the Homas and the Morikawas and the Abergs and the Cantlays. Again, you're kind of bypassing a lot of guys with a lot of good chances of winning on this golf course. But once you get past them, there is some value. I'll save my favorite play on the board, who's in that tier for my last hole. But as I get to the second hole here, I'm looking at a guy who I think is going to have, I don't know if I'll call it a breakthrough year, but excuse me, a guy that's won twice on the PGA Tour, the same event each time, the Valero Texas Open, and a guy that I think is going to have a massive year. I don't know if that means winning a major, but I do think that Corey Connors is going to win a bigger event, maybe a signature event like we've seen, that we have on the PGA Tour now. This is being the first of 8 of those. I don't know that this is the greatest course for Connors. In fact, I might like him better at the Sony next week than I like him this week. That said, I think he's going to knock one out of the park at some point, so I want to keep swinging. I'm going to keep swinging, and I'm willing to swing and miss a couple of times if it means I can hit a home run with Corey Connors at some point soon. And so, again, it's more about the odds, 60 to 1 this week for Corey Connors, and some books have them even longer right now. More about that and getting some really good value than it is me saying, I think Corey Connors is absolutely going to win this week. I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns this week. We don't know who's been working on their games for 2 weeks straight and feels dialed in, who's been eating Christmas cookies for the last 2 weeks and is coming in 10 pounds overweight and doesn't feel great right now. So with all those unknowns, I'm willing to go down the board and play some numbers. That's the first number I'll play is Connors at 60 to 1.
I'm not sure. I'm not sold. It's early in the year. I won't smash you or hammer you for your picks yet. But I think the points that you made in the wider scope are certainly true. I think that Connors is the type of player that, in 12 months' time, we could be sitting there going, or even 10 months' time, he'll be a spearhead for the International President's Cup team. He'll be, in his home country off the back of a big year. I would not be surprised if that's the case. So whether he starts it this week, I'm not sure, but I'm willing to lean that he could have a big year, knowing that carrot is there at the end of the road for the international team. And speaking of international team members, I'll go to hole 3 with my long shot pick of the week, and it's almost like rinse and repeat from around this time last year, where I'm going to say that Cam Davis is going to have a huge year. Look, you can jeer at me if you will because he's an Australian and whatnot, but I think there's enough proof there that last year we weren't stupid by saying it was going to potentially be a big year for him last year. Clearly, he was ill at the start of the year. He had a real problem getting over the sickness for a few months. The results were terrible, coming off the President's Cup confidence. But as soon as he got healthy, things skyrocketed from there. Maybe 8 top 10s or quite a few top 10s to finish the year. Showed that he had the stones to move through the playoffs and get himself into this position to be at the Sentry and other signature events. Started really well in the Australian Open. a few weeks back before copying a little bit of the weather on the opposite course. They played 2 courses. I think that Cam Davis is another player that's going to take the leap, the next step up again. I'm expecting big things, and getting him at 66 to 1 this week in a place where he's played once before and finished in the top 10. It's definitely the type of course that fits his game. I think that's great value.
All right, so full disclosure, about 5 minutes before we started recording the podcast, I am in a industry-wide fantasy league that is a season-long fantasy league, 8 teams in the league, and you play matchups week to week, very much like you would in fantasy football. And I'm in the 4th round of my draft, and I'm going back and forth. And I got 2 completely different players. I got Cam Davis sitting there, who I really like, think might have a little more upside, maybe a little higher ceiling, lower floor, but I've got Denny McCarthy sitting right there, who, again, completely opposite player from Cam Davis, rolls in a lot of putts. I don't know that the ceiling's as high, but he's very consistent. And I went back and forth, and I asked you, and I want to make sure there are no red flags on Davis. And you said no, you said fire away. And so I took Davis. That was, like I said, 5 minutes before we started recording the pod. I might be regretting it already. I'm not even sure. I've looked back on every pick. Unlike fantasy football where you can do mock drafts, like I don't, maybe there are mock drafts available in PGA Tour leagues. I haven't seen them, so I'm flying blind into this. Obviously, I know all the players really well. I'll give you a little taste of this, by the way. I started with the number 6 pick in an 8-team league, Benny. I know it's hard without knowing the other picks, but what do you think? I've gotten Aberg with the 6th pick. That's right. I went Ludvig with the first one. Tony Finau, Rickie Fowler, Cam Davis. You hate it, don't you?
I love Cam Davis. It's a great pick. But Aberg, look, he's going to be a star. There's one guy that's not on my list this week, but he is going to be a star. There's no doubt. Players are actually fearful of him. So that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
We'll see. We'll see. So in any case, we get to the 4th hole for this week. And if I can play Corey Connors, well, I might as well pick his brother in ball striking, Russell Henley, who's essentially the same player. I mean, you want to try to separate Connors from Henley, Henley from Connors. One's Canadian, one's American. Other than that, they basically have the exact same stats, and they do year after year. I think Henley's got a higher ceiling with that putter. When he gets that putter going, it can be really good. Connors doesn't really have that gear with the flat stick, but he's probably more consistent tee to green. All of that said, very similar players. I will go Russell Henley, top 5. He's done it once before at Kapalua at plus 750, which I think is a nice number.
I was going to say, my memory, I was going to start trawling through the results because I do remember him being in the mix one of the years I was there.
Yeah.
Likely back in the Jason Day years, probably middle of the 15, 16 scenario.
Yep, exactly.
And it was him just putting the dots off it. So any guy that can do that is someone, as I said, you can look into this week. And speaking of your man, Denny McCarthy, what a nice segue into a guy who puts the dots off it. Bet365's player markets. The minus 120, you get the juice either side, better where they're going to finish. McCarthy is sitting there at 29th or better. It's basically half of the field. Yeah. I do think he'll finish in the top half of this field. I think that his putting is strong enough that he can roll in, more putts than others, and it should keep him in the top half of this group. He's a first timer, having never been there. Guys who go their first time don't generally win, but they can feel around. And if anyone's going to figure out the greens quicker than the other bunch of first timers, it's probably Denny. So I saw that as an option. A good putter, only needs to finish in the top half to cash. Denny McCarthy in the player markets for my 5th hole.
So there is a ton of value in this market, Benny. I think there's a lot of value in the prop marketplace, and we'll get some top 10s, top 20s soon because there's only 59 players. I just feel like when there's limited fields, the odds makers don't adjust probably the way they should on props. And so I think there's a ton of value there. But I'm going to go to my favorite player finishing position bet for the 6th hole. Rickie Fowler has played this event 4 times in the past. He's never finished worse than 6th place. Rickie Fowler's finishing position at Bet365 is listed at 22nd or better. Fire away. I mean, quite honestly, if you were the kind of bettor that said, look, I don't care about having a lottery ticket for an outright. I don't care about having a bunch of I want to make my money back. I want to double my money, or at least turn it into 80% more. because he's at minus 120, as are all the finishing position bets. Give me one bet that's going to win this week. Rickie Fowler at 22nd or better on a golf course where he contends every time he plays it is the smash play of the week for me. Again, minus 120. You're not going to make a boatload unless you bet a boatload, but it's a great play in my eyes.
Segueing me brilliantly across this podcast, I will move things around. I'll go to the 7th hole. I have Rickie Fowler locked in for a top 10. Same things that you said. You're getting good plus money around the 250, 275, even plus 300 in places for him to finish in the top 10. He's been there 4 times, been in the top 6 all the way. You could even look to him top 5 if you're feeling it. The reality is he loves the island, and he's made for the island. He plays well. He plays well there. He's in a good mood there. He just has the attitude for it. Doesn't give up like some others do in these limited events, where, I can't win, so I'll just sort of ease back. He actually puts the foot down and tries to score low. And look, I think, as I said, I've got him conservatively in the top 10 at the plus 275. I think, like you said, finishing the top 20 is almost feels like, what is it? The links and locks feels like a lock, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've got him in the top 10. He's finished in the top 10 the 4 times he's been there. So I think that trend can continue. I think, he's the type that would get there early, have a bit of fun, play around. I know things are different now because there's kids, family, etc., wives, but they're still all there having a great time together. They're still in that great frame of mind, and I think Fowler will again perform well. I don't think he's going to win, but I do think he'll be right up there, contending and in that sort of top 5, top 10 barrier.
Yeah, I've got a guy here, and I do have an outright on him just because the number was, in my eyes, ridiculous. I got him at 75-1, but I will play top 10s on another guy who's playing here for the first time, Sahith Theegala, who's a guy that I like in general. I mean, I just think he's a really good player. The one part of his game that needs some work is accuracy. He just sprays it off the tee. Well, guess what? I mean, you can miss fairways at Kapalua, Benny. I don't think Sahith is going to miss many fairways. This is a place where you can just essentially let it go off the tee, and you're going to find some short stuff somewhere. For him to finish in the top 10 this week, again, against only 59 players, it's only the top 17% of the field that he needs to be in. He doesn't have to beat 146 other players. Plus 425 feels like a really good number to step on at that one. And I will say, whether you like Theegala or not, whether you like some of your top 10s or not, Rickie Fowler, whoever you do like this week, look at those top 10, top 20 markets. Because like I said, it feels like they are not adjusted for what is a very limited field this week. That's essentially a third of the number of players that we see in some events during the PGA Tour season.
Yeah, you're getting good plus money in both of those on certain players. Definitely value there. Have a look around and pick who you love for sure. And certain, I'll close the front 9 with a top 5 option at only sort of 5-1, and I'm going off what he was able to do. I guess last year as well, finished in the top 5, and it's Tom Kim, another international team hopeful, someone who I hope will spearhead the team. He did open with a 65 last year, so first timer there, 65. Thanks for coming. 67.5 his average after all. Well, then I think learning the course, as I said, this is a place where you play once, you learn it, you start to get a feel for it, and then off you go. I think he'll be all the better for that. And look, if you want to have a double in the outright, don't be afraid, because he's in that 20 to something, I believe. He's in that next tier that you get a little bit of value for what he might be able to produce. I've got him in top 5. I think it was about 5-1 that you could get around Tom Kim.
I like that as well. And by the way, Betty, we've got a whole back 9 to still get to. And I've got a little story for you that it's an Australian thing. We'll get to it in just a second. But as we go to the back 9, one more reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 does not do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Colorado, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 or older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Before we get to the back nine, Benny, I've got to read to you an AP story that came out this past week. You are Australian. That is not a fake accent, as we mention all the time. You'll make an Aussie pick pretty frequently here on the pod. This is another individual sport, but I feel like it's relevant here because I've got questions. All right, Benny. Former U.S. Open champion Dominic Thiem had a brush with one of Australia's most venomous snakes during a qualifying match at the Brisbane International on Saturday. The former world number 3 was a set down to Australian James McCabe in a first-round qualifying match when fans courtside spotted the snake. Security personnel quickly arrived, but the umpire had to stop play as the snake slithered onto the court to the shock of the players and fans. I really love animals, especially exotic ones, Thiem said, but they said it was a really poisonous snake and it was close to the ball kid, so it was a really dangerous situation. Benny, what the hell is going on in Australia? There are poisonous snakes in the middle of professional tennis matches?
Mate, I think we've got 9 of the top 10 most venomous snakes and 19 of the top 20 most venomous spiders in Australia. It's one of those places. We've got a few sharks, box jellyfish, blue-ringed octopus, you name it. We've got some intense wildlife, cut off from the rest of the world. It's an island nation, island continent. These things happen. But you need this interest in sport, mate. The tennis is trying to gear up for their first major. They're the Australian Open. They've got to get some clicks, some headlines. So we'll just throw in a couple of brown snakes, a red belly black, or whatever we can find, and chuck it out there and see how they go. I'm glad the ball kid wasn't hurt or wasn't bitten, but I don't mind it going after the odd yank too. So I was trying to help out the Aussie in the match. That was good news.
I don't care if I'm playing tennis. That was in Brisbane. I don't care if I'm in Sydney. If I'm in Melbourne, I'm playing a tennis match, and I hear about that. I'm like, time out. I'm gone. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I'm getting on a plane. No snakes on the plane. I am not dealing with this country anymore. Like, you get a crocodile on the court. Yeah, I'll pull its tail, whatever. You get some spiders out there. We can step on them. They're not going to be that poisonous if we kill them. Snakes aren't slithering around when I'm trying to play tennis. See you later. I'm out. I'm not doing that.
Just check your shoes before you put them on in Australia. It's nothing for us to worry about. Usually it's all right. Look,
check your shoes.
As with all these animals.
Benny, check your shoes means at some point there was a time when someone went, I didn't check my shoes and I stepped in the poisonous snake that was sitting in my shoe.
Yes. Something like that. Yeah, that it's been known to happen. But anti-venom is there these days. You're fine. You'll be great. You just off the hospital, pump you full of little, concoction and back on the court in no time.
If I wasn't scared of snakes already, I just don't like them. I'm not scared of them. I just don't want to be around them. But if one bit me and I had to go to the hospital to get a venom shot, no, I'm not going outside ever again. Forget it. I'm out. Okay. Let's get back to the 10th hole. Let's play the back nine here. I'm taking a good old American for my first round leader play. Forget these Australian guys. They're crazy. I'm going with an American, a Floridian. This guy could pull a gator tail. He probably did back in the day at my own West Orange Country Club, where he grew up. I mentioned on the Gimme the other day, where he was 11, 12 years old. He was taking lunch money, maybe other kinds of money out of the pockets of a lot of the members there. But Eric Cole, last year, ranked 13th on the PGA Tour in round one scoring average. I get it. The numbers are skewed because he was playing so many events, but he led the PGA Tour in total birdies, in rounds under par, in rounds in the 60s, not afraid to go low. Oh, by the way, you're going to have to go low if you want to be first round leader at this one. Probably going to take something in the 64 range, 65 on this par 73, about 8 or 9 under. Eric Cole can do that. I guess it's his first time playing there. 50-1 for Cole, first round leader.
Yeah, look, mate, I guess what are we doing? We're doing this on Tuesday night, this podcast. And I know that on Wednesday in Hawaii, I think they will announce whether or not he wins Rookie of the Year from last year. He's in a dogfight with Ludvig Aberg over that Arnold Palmer Award.
I bet you know already.
Should he get that award, I think this will be a very good pick. I think he'll be in great spirits, and I think that he would hit the ground absolutely running and would all of a sudden become a very good candidate for first round leader.
You know who's going to win on Wednesday. This podcast, most people aren't listening before this is going to be announced on Wednesday. So why don't you just tell us? Just tell us. Come on.
I would like to reserve my job for a little while longer at the PGA Tour.
Oh.
But I'll just say that it's apparently, and this is what I can tell you. Apparently, it was a super tight vote. We know that Ludvig Aberg is a superstar on the rise and won the RSM Classic.
Yeah.
But Eric Cole, before that, was the only rookie who made it through to the top 50 to be in these signature events via that as well. So he had, I guess, the quantity on the board versus the quick quality that Aberg put at the end. So it apparently is a super tight race between the two. And that'll be something to keep an eye on for tomorrow.
All right. I'm reading between the lines. I know who it is. I wish I could get a bet down right now because I can read your mind. I can read between your words. I know who's going to win this one. But in any case, let's get to the 11th.
Well, so, yeah, I'll go to the 11th. I'll do my first round leader for you if you like. And look, as I said, I mentioned earlier that I'm staying away from the favourites. And if you do like them, this is the place you can look at them. I'm not looking at them at all this week, to be honest. I think Schauffele hasn't proven himself on this course just yet for the low odds that you're getting. And if he does play well, great, get on him then after a good first round or whatever else, because his quality. The same for Viktor Hovland, who's never been better than 18th in 3 tries here. And in those years, there were only 30-odd players or 30 players. So Viktor Hovland hasn't shown that this is a course for him yet either. So I'm staying away from the two of them. But there is someone else near the front of that board that I think is an option at better than his outright odds for first round leader, and that is Collin Morikawa. Collin is an interesting character for me this week. I could absolutely agree with anyone who thinks to go in for him on an outright pick because of last year. He was dominating, he was killing it, and then he had an epic collapse on Sunday after his new chipping style, etc., came apart under the pressure of trying to win. I do think there's a sense of unfinished business there for him, and he theoretically, obviously got the win late in the year last year to get over the hump as well. He could be the type that goes out from the front and does what he did for the most part last year. But he also could be a little bitten by that scenario. So if you want to stay away from him, I understand that level of thinking as well. For me, rather than jump in at his shorter odds for outright, maybe look at him as a quick hot starter. He's had 7th and 5th, as I said, runner-up. He plays well here. First round leader option, but slightly juicier odds is where I would start with Collin Morikawa.
All right. 12th hole, you've already mentioned, Benny, that you are not taking either Schauffele or Hovland, so you probably will not like this play, but we were able to get Bet365 to boost some odds for us. We did so on the Gimme this week, our video show that I was doing with Spencer Aguiar through the Action Network. You can check your favorite social channels to go back and watch that show, which is evergreen until the tournament starts on Thursday morning. Scottie Scheffler and Viktor Hovland, the two best players in the field, the two favorites in this field, both to finish in the top 10. We've got boosted from plus 162 to plus 176. I, again, think that's a really good number, close to 2-1 on both of them finishing top 10 in a 59-man field. They're really good at golf. The course should suit them. I mean, Victor's long irons should be tremendous around this place. I know that his short game's better than it was a year or two ago, but you don't need much of a wedge game around these greens. You can pretty much putt stuff. So I do like Hovland here this week a little bit. Top 10 for both of them, plus 176.
Yeah, mate. Well, look, as I said, I haven't taken the favourites, but I think it's good value from Bet365 to put up the boosted odds there for you. So with that in mind, it's something that you can take a look at. I'll leave you to that one, and I'll move to a top 20 play. I went to the plus numbers here. I said limited field, trying to find some plus money value. One veteran that's used to play very well, there hasn't lately, but still has good vibes around the joint, and probably should have a few wins there, if I'm being honest, is Hideki Matsuyama, top 20 for about plus 130 or so. I think that all things being equal, now I haven't heard anything other than positive stuff out of his camp. He's supposedly feeling better. There's no neck issue, no back issue, no whatever else. If I am to believe all of that, then he becomes value for the top 20 market. So that's one of those things, to take it with a grain of salt. You're believing the team. Of course, they probably don't disclose everything. If Hideki withdraws after a round, I'm going to be annoyed. But look, you're getting value at the moment because of that, because of the fact that he's being so up and down with his injuries and whatnot. If I believe the team, the value's there. Top 20, Hideki Matsuyama.
Benny, he's basically on my do not play list. I just can't do it right now. He burned me too much over the last couple of years. Look, if he wants to play the next 3 months and play well and he's healthy and he can prove to us that he's worth our money and worth investing in him, then okay, prove it to me. But I am not just willfully handing over my money to a book and blindly hoping that Hideki Matsuyama is healthy this week. I just can't do it. I can't do it. So, all right, we get to the...
And I respect that opinion.
Yeah. All right, we get to the 14th hole. I haven't made my top 20 play yet, but again, I'm telling you guys, whether you like my top 20 here or whether you just find some of your own that you like, the top 20s, especially for guys outside that top tier of players, you're getting plus money on these guys, and all they've got to do is beat 39 other players. There's a lot of value here. My guy has not been scared to play against some big fields. He's already got a Masters invitation in his back pocket, I believe for the first time. Played well enough to win a couple of events last year, just didn't come through and get it done. But Adam Schenk is a guy that I really like for this year. I'm going to play him for a top 20 at plus 230 this week, which, again, I mean, you're getting more than 2-1, close to 2.5-1 on a guy just to beat a little more than half the field, basically beat like 2/3 of the field.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I think there's definitely going to be one or two guys that are not mainstream in inverted commas in that top 20, and there's definitely going to be some value picks out of that in those markets, like you said. Have a look, have a crack, and enjoy a pick, I say. Excuse me. I'll go to the 15th hole. I've realised I've done quite a few international team eligible members this week, and I'm going to go with one more here in a potential matchup that I found. I really like Sungjae Im to be up and around the lead as well. Yeah. And I saw that you can get plus money in a matchup with him against Fitzpatrick. I take it out however you like. I'm not sure that Fitz does as well on these type of courses where we're going to need to shoot 26 under.
Correct.
27 under potentially, especially with no wind really forecast. I think Sungjae can go low, has shown that he can play decent here before, 2 top 10s already. 67 scoring average, which remember it's a par 73, so he's nearly 6 under on average around this joint. I think Sungjae Im with plus money matchup against Fitzpatrick is a good one to jump on.
Yeah, I agree with you on Fitzpatrick. He played well last year, 7th place, but look, he does not like tournaments where it could be 30 under winning this event. I mean, he's a guy that wants to grind out pars and have them matter, like a U.S. Open or Bay Hill. I love him at Bay Hill in a couple months. I by the way, just finished my one and done strategy cheat sheet that I do every year. You can find it at actionnetwork.com, the Action app. 4,000 words breaking down not just picks for each of the tournaments throughout the PGA Tour season, but game theory and strategies, why you should go to different players. Depends on where you are in the standings against your fellow competitors. A lot to think about instead of just blindly making picks. So that is my shameless self-promotion there. We get to the 16th hole. And I like Ludvig Aberg this year. I'm just going to go out there and say it. I think he's pretty good, Benny. I don't know about this matchup bet head-to-head, but I'm getting Aberg at essentially a flip of a coin over Collin Morikawa, both of them at minus 110. It's Aberg's first time playing this golf course. Morikawa was runner-up last year. I might lose this one. But again, like some of my plays, these are more about long-term type plays. If you give me Aberg at the same price as Morikawa in the, let's say, 14, 15 events that they'll both play in 2024, I will be up for the year. You give me a blind $100 bet right now on a 4-round matchup, Aberg against Morikawa, every time they're in the same field over the next 8 months, I will be plus money by the end of August. And I'm saying that right now. I might go 0-1 to start this week, but if you give me this every time, I'm going to be winning money. So Aberg is a guy that I'm not fading anytime soon. I might not bet him. I don't love the number this week for a guy that's never played there before, but I'm not fading him. He's a no. Hideki's a no play for me right now. Aberg's a no fade for me. I'm just not fading him and playing guys against him.
We couldn't be closer in the same wavelength there. I think that you might lose this one. You might maybe lose this week, but over the course of the year, I would say lay down Mazzea. Yeah, you'll win more matchups than you'll lose. He's an absolute stud. He's going to be a star. Excuse me. He's going to be a star, and I think that he's going to be up there more than not. And it's funny because during the fall, I found a reason to fade him during one of those tournaments, and it was in Vegas, wasn't it? And I was all excited because he started poorly, and I told you I'd figured it out. I found the statistical anomaly and whatnot, and then he just rocketed home without even trying, and didn't quite win or whatever, but he was near. He threatened enough to realize that okay, maybe the stats don't even matter on this guy. Like he's just that naturally talented.
Correct.
He is going to play well pretty much every time he tees it up. I'm with you. It's hard to fade him. It's hard to fade him. He's got crappy numbers because he's on one of those tears, and the books are scared of him, just like the players are. But yeah, I'd ride him if you could, or at least just don't fade him. That's a good point. All right, my outright pick. Drum roll, please. It's actually not an international eligible player. Unbelievable. I don't know, but if we rewound this pod a year ago, I may have had this guy in the same spot. I may have, or at least I would have had him in some slot. But I'm going to go with a guy who withdrew early after the first round last year. He's a former champion. Xander Schauffele for me is a great pick. If you don't want the favourite, but you still want to go with some chalk, he's in that 14, 16 to 1 range. Look, he's only ever had one over par round on the course way back in 2018. Everything else is well under. It's a great scoring average. His final round scoring average is 67, but it's actually 66 for his last 4 if you take out the first year he played where he wasn't in contention. 62 to win it when he won it in 2019. 2020 he was second, 5th in 21. And more to the point, I think he's able to get that underdog feeling back.
Yeah.
I think he's finally not being spoken about as much, not being talked about as an elite talent at the top of the tour. We just talked about Ludvig Aberg, and we're always hearing about Rory and Scheffler and Hovland and all this. And all of a sudden, little man X is back where he likes to be, where not many people are expecting the world of him, and where he's not quite that top echelon. That's the sort of thing that gets his blood pumping. That's what gets his goat up. And I really think that if he's able to put himself in that mindset and just look, everything that's gone on, we've scattered, gone around it a lot, haven't really discussed it much in depth. With everything going on in the world of golf, I think that it's time for a guy like Schauffele to stand up and show that, don't forget me, I'm pretty good. So I really like Xander this week.
All right, I like that. I will go back to, as I get to the 18th hole, my last and final bet. I'll go back to what I said at the beginning, which is I'm hunting numbers this week. I'm looking for guys that just look to have a little too much value. And I look at Tony Finau at 28 to 1. And I know that the putter did not look great at the end of last season, but the ball strike numbers are still really good. He's got a pair of top 10s in 4 career starts here. There's this narrative. I'm not playing him because of the narrative of a month ago. He said he did the Wolf of Wall Street thing. Said, I'm not leaving. And said he's staying with the PGA Tour. Even though that's a nice, hey, he gets paid off for the loyalty. That's a cool narrative. Yeah, but it's not really why you're betting on a guy. I'm basically betting because I think it's an inflated number on a guy who's got win equity in a shorter field, guy that hits the ball a long way, guy that's had some modicum of success on this golf course. And again, with so many variables, we haven't seen these guys in at least a month, if not more, for some of them. With all these variables at play, I'm willing to just say, hey, you know what? I'm blindly taking a few numbers, and I'm going to hope that one of them hits. And for me, Tony Finau is one of those guys at 28 to 1. I think that's a really good number. So I'm going to play him there. Benny, we cannot guarantee that all of these picks we've just made will hit. Can't guarantee that any of them will hit. We can guarantee that next week, we're at least going to sound a little bit better. And we've been playing hurt, so our apologies on the voices, a little coughing, a little sniffles here and there. So we will get that that ship righted by next week. But we appreciate all you guys hanging in here with us. And for the new subscribers, the new listeners, hey, we appreciate you. A reminder that you can download, subscribe, rate, and listen to the Links and Locks Best Bets podcast presented by Bet365, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. For Ben Everill, I'm Jason Sobel. Good luck with all your bets for this week's The Sentry. We're finally back, guys. Here's hoping you hit the green.